Physical impact. 14 years of believing she had been forgotten, of building walls to prevent similar pain, all based on manipulation and lies. When I turned 18 and accessed my trust fund, the first thing I did was hire investigators, Sebastian said. But you had moved. Your mother sold the bakery after remarrying. Without current information, the trail went cold. You built Cross Technologies to find me. I built it because I needed purpose. His hand reached across the table, hovering near hers. I channeled everything I felt into creating something meaningful. Every success, every innovation, I imagined sharing it with you. Imagine proving I had become someone worthy of a second chance. Vivian finally let him take her hand. The touch sent electricity through her body, awakening feelings she had buried for 14 years. I looked for you too, she admitted. For 2 years after you left, I went to every place we had been together, hoping you would appear. I wrote letters to your family's company that were probably discarded by assistants. What did you believe happened? That something was wrong. Her voice softened. That the boy who taught me constellations would not just forget. But eventually, not knowing hurt more than assuming the worst. Sebastian brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss against her knuckles. I am so sorry. For leaving, for not fighting harder, for all the years we lost. They talked until the barista announced closing time, sharing 14 years of separate lives. Sebastian walked her home, their conversation flowing easily now that truth had replaced assumptions. At her building's entrance, he hesitated. Can I see you again? Tomorrow, next week, whenever you are ready. Vivian studied his face, seeing sincerity in every line. Coffee. Saturday. Same place. The smile that transformed his features made her heart ache with possibility. As she rode the elevator upward, Vivian felt something unfamiliar: hope. Her walls had not crumbled completely, but cracks had formed, letting in light she had forgotten could exist. The following weeks unfolded like careful choreography. Sebastian and Vivian met regularly: coffee shops, art galleries, walks along the harbor. Conversations stretched for hours as they discovered that despite the years apart, they still shared the same humor, the same passions, the same dreams, but their reconnection did not happen in isolation. Clarissa Wentworth appeared at their third coffee meeting, Sebastian's business partner, polished and predatory in designer clothing. Her dismissive gaze made Vivian feel inadequate despite her own accomplishments. Sebastian, darling. Clarissa's smile was sharp. We have investor calls in an hour. Surely this little reunion can wait. After they departed, Vivian sat alone, doubt poisoning her thoughts. She belonged in studios and construction sites, not boardrooms and corporate politics. The gap between their worlds felt impossibly wide. That evening, Sebastian called, frustration evident in his voice. I apologize for Clarissa. She has boundary issues I have been addressing for months. She is beautiful, Vivian said, hating how small she sounded. She is calculating, Sebastian countered. Vivian, please do not doubt what is happening between us. Clarissa represents everything superficial I have spent years avoiding. You represent everything I have been searching for since we were 15. His words soothed temporarily, but the encounter had highlighted uncomfortable realities. Sebastian's world was complicated, filled with people pursuing agendas. She wondered if there was truly space for someone like her. The breaking point came at a technology summit where Sebastian had invited her as his guest. Clarissa circled throughout the evening, making subtle comments designed to emphasize Vivian's outsider status. She questioned her opinions on matters she could not possibly understand, touched Sebastian's arm with proprietary familiarity. How charming, Clarissa purred during one exchange. An architect from modest beginnings capturing our Sebastian's attention. Like something from a romance novel. Before Vivian could respond, Sebastian's voice cut through like ice. Clarissa. My office. Now. She could not hear their conversation, but watched Clarissa's expression transform from smugness to shocked fury. When Sebastian returned, his partner had vanished. She is gone, he said simply. Tomorrow I will be restructuring our business relationship entirely. You cannot destroy partnerships because of me, Vivian protested. I am correcting a mistake I tolerated too long. Sebastian took her hands, oblivious to curious observers. Clarissa has been toxic to company culture. No deal is worth compromising my values or hurting someone I love. The word love hung between them. Why? Vivian whispered. Why risk so much? Because 14 years ago, I made the wrong choice. I chose what seemed safe over what mattered.
The Boston skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Harrington Grand Ballroom, where the city's architectural elite had gathered for the annual Excellence in Design Awards. Vivian Laurent stood near the bar, champagne flute in hand, trying to ignore the nervous flutter in her stomach. At 29, she had accomplished more than most architects twice her age. Her sustainable housing projects had earned international recognition, and tonight she was receiving the Rising Innovator Award, validation that everything she had sacrificed to reach this moment had been worthwhile. Yet success had never quite filled the hollow space inside her chest. The space shaped like a boy with dark curly hair and ocean blue eyes who had vanished from her life 14 years ago without a single word of explanation. Sebastian Cross had been 15 when they met, she had been 14, two teenagers from vastly different worlds who collided at a summer art program. His family owned half of Manhattan's financial district. Her mother ran a struggling bakery in a working-class neighborhood. Nothing about their friendship made sense, and yet everything about it felt inevitable. For 3 summers, they were inseparable. Sebastian would escape his family's oppressive expectations to help Vivian's mother knead bread dough before dawn. They would spend afternoons sketching buildings together, dreaming of futures where they would design cities side by side. He told her she was brilliant. She told him he was kind. Both statements were true. Then one September morning, he was simply gone. No goodbye, no letter, no explanation. His family relocated to Singapore for business expansion, and Sebastian Cross vanished from her life like smoke dissolving into wind. Vivian had spent years convincing herself she hated him. Hatred was cleaner than grief, sharper than the dull ache of abandonment. She channeled her pain into ambition, building a career that owed nothing to anyone, protecting herself from ever depending on another person's presence. The crowd shifted, and Vivian felt something strange, a prickling awareness at the back of her neck. The sensation of being watched by someone who knew exactly where to look. She turned slowly, scanning the sea of designer gowns and tailored suits. Her champagne glass nearly slipped from suddenly nerveless fingers. Sebastian Cross stood across the ballroom, watching her with an intensity that made the air between them feel charged with electricity. 14 years had transformed the gangly teenager into something devastating, broad shoulders beneath an impeccably cut charcoal suit, dark curls now shorter but still unruly, that same jawline she had traced with her fingertips during stolen moments in her mother's kitchen. But his eyes. Those ocean blue eyes held the same warmth she remembered, now mixed with something raw and desperate that made her heart stutter painfully. He moved toward her through the crowd, people parting unconsciously for a man who commanded attention without effort. Vivian wanted to run, to hide, to pretend she had not spent 14 years wondering why he left. Instead, she stood frozen, watching her past walk toward her present. Vivian. His voice was deeper now, roughened by years, but it still made her name sound like something precious. You have no idea how long I have been searching for you. Mr. Cross. She forced ice into her tone, rebuilding walls with desperate speed. I was not aware you had returned to the country. Congratulations on your company's success. Cross Technologies has been quite prominent in the news. Pain flickered across his features at her formality. She had followed his career obsessively over the years, knew he had built a renewable energy empire worth billions, knew he sat on charitable boards across 3 continents, knew he had never been photographed with the same woman twice. You know who I am, he said quietly. Everyone knows who you are. Vivian kept her voice steady despite trembling hands. Your innovations in solar technology have been featured everywhere. That is not what I meant. Sebastian stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something woodsy and warm that made her chest ache with memory. Vivian, please. I need to explain what happened. I need you to understand why I disappeared. There is nothing to explain. The words came out sharper than intended. We were children. You moved on. I moved on. Ancient history. It is not ancient history if I have thought about you every single day for 14 years. His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow felt more intimate than a touch. It is not ancient history if I built everything I have while imagining the moment I would see you again. Vivian felt her carefully constructed defenses crack. But years of protecting herself made her cruel. How romantic. Did you rehearse that speech for all your charity galas? She watched him flinch and felt savage satisfaction even as her heart screamed that she was hurting them both. I deserve that, Sebastian said quietly. I deserve your anger. But please believe me, leaving you was the most painful thing I have ever experienced. You did not leave me. Vivian's professional composure finally shattered, revealing the wound beneath. You vanished. There is a difference between ending something and abandoning it completely. The awards coordinator appeared at her elbow, announcing that Vivian was needed backstage for her acceptance speech. She seized the interruption gratefully, excusing herself with practiced grace. As she walked away, she felt Sebastian's gaze following her like a physical presence. Throughout the ceremony, accepting her award with words she barely remembered speaking, Vivian remained acutely aware of him watching from the audience. When their eyes met across the crowded room, 14 years collapsed into nothing, leaving her simultaneously 14 and heartbroken and 29 and terrified of hoping again. After the ceremony ended and guests began departing, Vivian found herself alone in a quiet corridor, pressing her forehead against cool marble, trying to steady her breathing. I commissioned a search for you. Sebastian's voice came from behind her. 4 years ago, when I finally had resources to find anyone anywhere. It took my team 8 months to locate you. Vivian turned slowly. The polished billionaire was gone, replaced by someone vulnerable and achingly familiar. If you found me 4 years ago, why approach me now? Because I was a coward. His admission hung between them. I learned everything about your life, your career, your accomplishments. I was terrified that if I approached you, you would look at me exactly the way you did tonight. Like I was a stranger who meant nothing. You were right to be terrified. But her voice lacked conviction, and they both knew it. 1 hour, Sebastian said. Give me 1 hour to explain what happened. After that, if you want me gone forever, I will respect your wishes. Vivian looked into his eyes and saw the boy who had made her believe in possibilities, reflected in the man who had built an empire while carrying her memory. Every instinct screamed to refuse. But underneath the fear was truth she had never escaped, she had never stopped wondering why. 1 hour, she heard herself say. There is a coffee shop on Beacon Street that stays open late. The hope that transformed his face made her chest ache with emotions she was not ready to name. As they walked into the Boston night, Vivian wondered if she was making a terrible mistake or finally allowing herself to heal from a wound that had never properly closed. The coffee shop was nearly empty, just a tired barista and 2 students hunched over laptops. Vivian chose a corner booth, needing privacy for a conversation 14 years overdue. Sebastian ordered without asking, caramel latte with extra foam, exactly how she drank it as a teenager. You remember, she said softly. I remember everything. His eyes held hers. The way you hummed while sketching. How you tilted your head when examining buildings. The flower that always dusted your hair after helping your mother. Vivian wrapped her hands around the warm cup. You promised me an explanation. Sebastian's expression grew somber. The night before we left for Singapore, my father discovered our friendship. Someone had photographed us together and reported back to him. He disapproved of me. Not a question. He was furious. Not because of you specifically, but because I had formed attachments outside his control. Sebastian's jaw tightened. He threatened your family, Vivian. Your mother's bakery was struggling with loans from a bank my father partially owned. He said he would call those loans immediately, destroy her credit rating, ensure she never secured financing again. The blood drained from Vivian's face. That bakery had been her mother's entire life, generations of family recipes, the only inheritance they possessed. I was 15 years old, Sebastian continued, his voice heavy. I did not know how to fight him. I did not understand that his threats might have been empty, that there were protections against such retaliation. All I knew was that staying in your life would destroy yours. You could have explained, Vivian whispered, tears burning. You could have told me why. I tried. Sebastian leaned forward urgently. I wrote you letters every week for 3 years. Dozens of them explaining everything, begging you to understand, telling you I would come back when I could. I sent them to the bakery, to your school, anywhere I thought might reach you. I never received a single letter. Understanding darkened Sebastian's expression. My father. He must have intercepted them. He had people everywhere, it would have been simple to ensure they never arrived. The revelation struck Vivian like red. His eyes burned with intensity. I chose protecting my father's vision over fighting for the person who made me feel like myself. I will not make that mistake again. I am scared, she admitted. Scared of believing in this and having it disappear again. I know. Sebastian pulled her close. But I am not going anywhere. Not ever again. Their first kiss since reuniting was tender, then deeper, 14 years of longing finally finding expression. When they separated, both were trembling. Come away with me this weekend, Sebastian murmured against her lips. I have a house in Vermont. Private, quiet. Just us. Against every cautious instinct, Vivian agreed. The Vermont estate exceeded imagination, a modern structure of glass and timber nestled among mountains, complete privacy from the outside world. Autumn colors blazed across the landscape as Sebastian guided her inside. He had prepared everything thoughtfully, her favorite flowers in crystal vases, soft music playing through hidden speakers, champagne chilling beside a crackling fireplace. This is stunning, Vivian breathed. I come here when I need to remember what matters beyond business. Sebastian wrapped his arms around her from behind. I wanted to share it with you. They cooked dinner together, laughing as Sebastian proved cooking was not his strength. Vivian took over, creating simple pasta while he opened wine and lit candles. After eating, they sat on the deck watching stars emerge, the same constellations they had named together as teenagers. I need to tell you something, Sebastian said quietly. I have not felt this way in years. Maybe ever. You make me want to believe in something real. I feel the same. Vivian turned to face him fully. You terrify me. The intensity of this, how fast it is moving. We can slow down. She silenced him with a kiss that communicated everything words could not. I do not want slow, Vivian whispered. I want you. I have wanted you since I was 14 years old. Sebastian led her inside to the master bedroom where candles flickered and soft sheets awaited. He paused at the threshold, cradling her face. Are you certain? I have never been more certain of anything. They undressed each other slowly, reverently. Sebastian worshipped every inch of her skin with tender kisses, whispering how beautiful she was, how long he had waited, how precious she was to him. Vivian surrendered to sensation, his hands tracing her curves, his lips exploring sensitive places, his body warm against hers. 14 years of separation dissolved into this moment of perfect connection. Their union was passionate and tender simultaneously. Sebastian moved with her carefully, attentively, ensuring her pleasure matched his own. When they finally crested together, Vivian cried out with release that was physical and emotional, the shattering of old wounds and the birth of something beautiful. Afterward, tangled in silk sheets, Sebastian held her against his chest while his fingers traced patterns on her back. "Thank you," he murmured. "For trusting me again. Thank you for being worth trusting." Vivian kissed his chest. "I spent 14 years protecting myself from everyone. Now I understand, I was actually waiting for you." They made love again as moonlight streamed through windows, then talked until dawn about futures neither had dared imagine alone. Sebastian spoke of wanting partnership, family, someone to build a life alongside. Vivian shared dreams of creating spaces where people felt they belonged. "I want that future with you," Sebastian said as sunrise painted the mountains gold. "If you will have me." "I will have you," Vivian replied. "I have always been yours." 6 months transformed everything. Sebastian restructured Cross Technologies' leadership, removing toxic influences and promoting people who shared his values. He reduced his schedule dramatically, prioritizing time with Vivian over endless expansion. But his most significant announcement came at a press conference that sent shockwaves through the business community. The Cross Foundation for Small Business Preservation will provide emergency funding and legal protection for family-owned businesses threatened by corporate pressure, Sebastian explained to gathered reporters. No family should lose their livelihood because someone with power decides to weaponize financial institutions against them. Vivian's eyes widened as she understood. He was rewriting the story that had torn them apart, creating systems that would prevent other families from experiencing what his father had threatened against her mother's bakery. The foundation will be co-directed by Vivian Laurent, Sebastian continued, whose understanding of community and personal experience with the transformative power of small businesses makes her uniquely qualified. Afterward, driving to the Vermont house that had become their sanctuary, Vivian let herself fully believe in the future they were building. "You did not have to do that," she said softly. "I did." Sebastian took her hand. "I cannot change what my father threatened. I cannot return the years we lost. But I can ensure no other family faces that kind of manipulation." 3 months later, Sebastian took Vivian to the building where they had first met, the community art center that had hosted that fateful summer program. It had been restored and expanded, now bearing a plaque dedicating it to arts education for underserved youth. "This is where I first saw you," Sebastian said quietly. "You were sketching the skyline, completely absorbed. I thought you were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen." "I remember." Vivian smiled at the memory. "You asked if you could watch me draw. I thought you were strange." "I was strange. Strange and completely captivated." Sebastian reached into his pocket. "I have carried something for 6 months, waiting for the right moment." He knelt before her, producing a ring, simple, elegant, a vintage diamond that caught the light. "Vivian Laurent, I loved you when we were teenagers. I loved you through 14 years of separation. I will love you for every day we have ahead." His voice trembled with emotion. "Will you marry me?" "Yes." Vivian pulled him up, kissing him through joyful tears. "1,000 times yes." Their wedding was intimate, close friends, family, the Vermont estate where they had first surrendered to each other. Vivian's mother attended, finally meeting the man her daughter had loved since childhood. Sebastian's few genuine friends celebrated alongside them. Standing at the altar, exchanging vows they had written themselves, Vivian marveled at the journey that had brought them here. The painful years of believing herself abandoned had ultimately led to something infinitely precious. Sebastian, her husband, her partner, her destiny, smiled at her with eyes full of love. "I spent 14 years searching for you," he whispered as they sealed their vows. "I would spend 14 more if it meant this moment. You never have to search again." Vivian touched his face tenderly. "You found me. We found each other." They walked back down the aisle together, toward a future built on truth, trust, and the beautiful reality that some love survive any distance. The constellations they had named as teenagers still wheeled through the sky that night, faithful witnesses to a love story that had finally found its proper ending. Or rather, its true beginning.